this list, in our number 10 spot, we have interstellar medium. If you're into space news, you'll know that the Voyager 1 and the Voyager 2 are two spacecrafts that have breached the edge of our solar system and have traveled further than any other man-made object before. This is important because it's given us insights we've never even had access to before, and that is exactly where this deep space discovery comes from. For a long time we weren't exactly sure what was outside of our solar system, but we assumed it must be a dark, cold place outside of the embrace of our sun, but we now know that that is far from true. Beyond the boundaries of our solar system, there is a region that is full of invisible but chaotic activity. Experts have described it like the plunge pool under Niagara Falls, but instead of tumbling water, this region is chaotic because of solar wind. This area of space is said to be millions of kilometers thick, and it covers billions of square kilometers around the surface of our heliosphere. Michelle Bannister, who is an astronomer at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, explained this area and the solar winds as a constant, powerful stream of charged particles or plasma spraying out in every direction from the sun as it crashes into a cocktail of gas, dust, and cosmic rays that blows between star systems, known as interstellar medium. Because of our comfy place in the solar system and the heliosphere that surrounds us, we are protected from this space storm happening just outside of our bubble. In our number 9 spot today, we have a whirlpool galaxy planet. Just a few months ago, it was announced that astronomers may have found a planet in a star system outside of the Milky Way, and if this is the case, it would be the first ever found in another galaxy. This planet was discovered in a spiral galaxy that is called Messier 51, but its nickname is the Whirlpool Galaxy. I like the Milky Way a lot, but that nickname has me super intrigued. But this galaxy is located a cool 23 million light years away from Earth, so I think just hearing about it will probably have to do. The first planets that lie outside of our solar system, also called exoplanets, were found in the 1990s, and while we've found thousands more, this is the first time we found a planet in another galaxy, and it will be the furthest alien planet ever identified, like by thousands of times. This planet was found in what is called an X-ray binary system, which is a type of star system. As their name implies, these star systems produce and emit X-rays, and they usually are made up of a normal star and a collapsed star, like a black hole or what is known as a neutron star. So usually when astronomers are trying to find a new planet, they use what is called the transit method. Transit is when a planet orbits in front of its parent star, and for us, it causes an observable change in the light of the star. So the experts who found this new planet used this same method, but instead of optical light, they used X-ray light. In our number 8 spot today, we have radio bursts. We get a lot of radio signals from space. Some are more exciting and mysterious than others, and it's not uncommon for some of the most mysterious ones to repeat, but for the very first time just last year, researchers noticed a pattern in a series of bursts that are coming from one single source. Oh, and it just so happens that this source is 500 million light years from Earth. Fast radio bursts are super short, like millisecond long bursts of radio waves in space, and usually when they repeat, it tends to be sort of sporadic or all in a cluster. That is exactly why this discovery that was made by researchers at the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment and Fast Radio Burst Project collaboration was so strange and exciting. For a period between September 16th, 2018 and October 30th, 2019, they observed these radio bursts and noticed a pattern that repeated every 6.35 days. For 4 days, the signal would release a burst or two each hour, and then it would go silent for 12 days before repeating the process. Now the focus has turned to trying to find out what is on the other end of these signals and where they are coming from. What do you think? In our number 7 spot today, we have a white dwarf. Okay, so for this discovery, we all have to be on the same page with white dwarfs. These things are a stellar core remnant that are made up of mostly electron degenerate matter. These things are dense. They have a mass close to that of the sun, but their volume is similar to that of Earth. Basically, white dwarfs are in the final stage of a star, or the final evolutionary stage of a star whose mass is not quite high enough to become a neutron star or a black hole. This is what will one day happen to our sweet sun as well, since it's really not that large of a star. So, now that we all get what a white dwarf is, we have discovered one, and it is known to be the fastest spinning white dwarf we have ever found. This star was located in the binary system LAMOST J02401952, yeah, that was its short name, and the star completes a full rotation every 24.93 seconds. While it's taking us 24 hours, this thing is taking 24 seconds. That sounds like the worst ride at the fair. Scream if you want to go faster. In our number 6 spot today we have more radio bursts. Remember when I said that radio bursts happen often in space? Yeah, well here we are talking about another one. I swear I wasn't lying. Researchers like Dr. Benjamin Pope at the University of Queensland, along with colleagues from the Dutch National Observatory Astron, have been using the world's most powerful telescope to search for new planets. This has led to the detection of stars that are unexpectedly blasting out radio waves, which has now led researchers to believe that this may be due to the existence of hidden planets. We know that planets in our own solar system emit powerful radio waves, which is what happens when their magnetic fields interact with solar winds, but we had yet to pick up radio signals from planets outside of our solar system, which is what makes this discovery so exciting. Dr. Joseph Callingham at Leiden University and Astron, who is also the lead author of this discovery, said that the team is confident these signals are coming from the magnetic connection of the stars and unseen orbiting planets, similar to the interaction between Jupiter and its moon Io. In our number 5 spot today we have a black hole. You would think with how terrifying black holes are we'd know a lot about them, or that they'd at least be easy to identify, but it turns out that neither of those things are true. That is certainly a frightening thought, but that is also what made this little discovery an exciting one. Just a few weeks ago, astronomers discovered a small black hole just outside of the Milky Way, and it is hiding in a little star cluster. This discovery was made by looking at how this black hole was influencing the motion of the star that is closest to it, and that made it the first time this sort of method was used to detect a black hole outside of our galaxy. This is a very valuable discovery because it means that this method could potentially be used to help discover black holes that exist in other galaxies, which could then help shed light onto how these mysterious things form and evolve. In our number 4 spot today we have Martian meteorites. Okay, so this is a discovery that comes from our solar system, and it does involve Earth and Mars. It might not be the farthest out space discovery, but for reference, the closest that Earth and Mars could possibly be, which has never happened, it's just theoretical, is 54.6 million kilometers away from each other. But in that same breath, the furthest they can be from each other is 401 million kilometers. So it's safe to say we certainly aren't close. Over the past 20 million years or so, there's been about 166 Martian rocks that have landed on Earth, but for all of this time, their exact origins were unknown. That was until recently when researchers were able to determine the most likely origin of these meteorites using a machine learning algorithm that analyzes high-resolution planetary images. This research showed that these meteorites that landed on Earth likely originated from the Tooting crater on Mars, which is located in the Tharsis region, the largest volcanic province in the entire solar system. This discovery is groundbreaking because it comes 10 years before the Perseverance rover is set to send back samples of the Martian soil. There is a lot that went into exactly how they made this discovery, and it includes going back in the history of the planet, which is absolutely fascinating. Unfortunately, I only have so much time here, so I can't fully explain it, but Science Daily has a fantastic article about it should you want to read up a little bit more on this incredible research project. In our number 3 spot today we have a baby planet. To us, our Earth may seem kind of old. I mean, it's been around for millions and millions of years and long before us, but in terms of space and the universe, it's really not too old of a planet. Earlier this year, however, scientists discovered one of the youngest planets to ever be found, and it is around a distant infant star. I don't know why, but talking about finding the youngest planet sounds like the cutest thing in the world to me. Thousands of planets have been discovered around other stars, but this one's age is what makes it so unique, and the fact that it can be directly observed. So far we believe that this planet is a few times larger than Jupiter, and it is believed that it formed with its star several million years ago. I mean, our Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, so comparably, this guy's just a little youngster. Like, this planet was forming around the same time that the main Hawaiian Islands were first emerging from the ocean. Because this planet is so young, it is still very hot from the energy that was released during its formation. Like, it's sitting at about the temperature of lava erupting from a volcano, so it's just a little too hot for comfort. In our number 2 spot today we have galactic recoil. There is another galaxy out there that we call the Andromeda Galaxy, and within it we have found this strangely shaped cluster of stars that has been stumping researchers for quite a while, but we think we may have found an answer as to why. This mystery has been around for decades, and this new research might help researchers to better understand how galaxies grow by feeding on each other. Basically, every galaxy has a supermassive black hole at their core. I know, it's kind of terrifying, but it's just the way it is, and there really isn't anything we can do about it. So this new study is showing that when two galaxies collide, which yes, also unfortunately happens, the supermassive black holes and their cores then release a huge, devastating, powerful kickback, like the recoil from a shotgun kind of a situation. This new study and research is now showing and suggesting that this kickback may be so strong that it can knock millions of stars into different wonky, strange orbits, and this might be the answer as to why the star cluster behaves so strangely. Basically, the collision and the waves won't affect the stars in the galaxy directly, but the recoil is going to throw the remaining supermassive black hole through space. And when I say throw, I'm talking about traveling at millions of miles per hour. We also have to remember that supermassive black holes have a mass that can be millions and even billions times that of the sun. This means that this kickback could be powerful enough for them to entirely escape the galaxy, and if they don't, they may pull the orbits of the stars around them, thus creating this wonky situation we've been wondering about. Of course, this is the most basic way of explaining it because an expert I am not, but it is truly such a fascinating concept. In our number 1 spot today we have dead galaxies. It is said that the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. When it was just a youngster at only 3 billion years old, it was going through an extremely important period in its development, and this was the most prolific period of star birth in its entire history. New research from NASA using the Hubble Space Telescope along with the Atacam Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array in northern Chile, they gazed towards the cosmic objects in this period, and that is when they found something they hadn't seen before. 6 different quote dead galaxies. By this I mean that they had run out of the cold hydrogen needed to make stars, and without the fuel for stars, these galaxies were basically just running on empty. At this point in our universe, all the galaxies should have been forming tons of stars. I mean, ours certainly was, as can be seen by a glance towards the night sky, especially in areas that aren't clouded by light pollution. This discovery is absolutely fascinating, but it's led us to new questions we didn't even know we had before. What led these galaxies to this point? What happened to all of the cold gas in them so early on? These 6 galaxies lived fast, hot lives, but we aren't sure what went wrong. Lead author and assistant professor of astronomy at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Kate Whitaker, proposed several potential explanations and gave us insight into the future of the studies when she said, quote, "Did a supermassive black hole in the galaxy's center turn on and heat up all the gas? If so, the gas could still be there, but now it's hot. Or it could have been expelled and now it's being prevented from accreting back into the galaxy. Or did the galaxy just use it all up and the supply is cut off?" These are some of the open questions that we'll continue to explore with new observations down the road. Starting off at number 10 we have the WOW signal. In 1977, Big Ear Radio Observatory at The Ohio State University, it got its name from the WOW written in red pen beside the numbers representing the signals that were caught. In 2006, astronomer Antonio Paris suggested that the WOW signal from 1997 was a natural phenomenon created by a comet. 22P Christensen was the name of the comet they were thinking, and it emitted bizarre radio signals, was kind of what they assumed it could be. But the original astronomer who discovered the signal, Jeremy Amen, said, "No way." Well, really what he says, we can't believe that the 2 comets theory can explain the WOW signal, so same thing to no way. Some think the signal could be from another space mystery, a blip in the machinery, or possibly extraterrestrial life. Maybe aliens were trying to send us a little voice memo, but our tech wasn't really ready. Who knows? This leads me to our next one, which is another kind of signal. At number 9 we have repeating fast radio bursts. Repeating fast radio bursts, or FRBs, are brief bursts of radio waves from deep space. There's not an agreement on what they are or where they're coming from, but there have been talk that these flashes of radio energy could be coming from a supernova remnant or a neutron star orbiting a black hole. When it comes to repeating fast radio bursts, it's different
different than just regular FRBs. Since they aren't as jumbled and disrupted through their journey, it's thought they come from a calmer environment. This idea is supported by the fact that repeat FRBs are also about 10 times longer in duration than standard FRBs, 10 milliseconds to 1 millisecond respectively. What could the calmer environment they are coming from be? Say it with me now. Aliens. Aliens, calmer environment, they're just like beep beep beep, they're just trying to get in touch with us. I'm thinking, we're just not ready. I'm gonna keep saying this. That's what I believe. But at number 8, neutrinos, aka ghost particles. Now, I'm not going to even attempt to go over the physics too much because I stopped that the second I stopped studying for my grade 11 physics exam in high school, but I'll dive into neutrinos at their basics. At their basics, neutrinos are tiny particles with almost no mass and nearly no charge, kind of neutral like their name. Since there's not much to them, they're similar to nothing. Nothing as in the concept, nothingness. And because of this, they get their moniker ghost particles. They travel at near light speeds and originate from stars and supernovas, which means the sun also gives off neutrinos. But the cool thing is that neutrinos can come from really far and have a lot of energy. Last year, scientists were even able to trace one really energized one to a galaxy about 4 billion light years away from Earth. There's a lot we don't know about neutrinos, which is kind of where the mystery of them lies. I didn't even know they were a thing before like last week. It's cool. But on to number 7, exomoon. For a long time, scientists were only able to locate moons within our own galaxy. We found exoplanets, sure, rotating around stars outside our solar system, but exomoons have been tougher to locate, possibly due to their smaller size. It was a mystery in itself, wondering if moons were just a thing in the Milky Way, but an exomoon may have been discovered last year. It's about the size of Neptune and it orbits a huge exoplanet called Kepler 1625. It's a big moon, bigger than any of the moons in our solar system, but the mass ratio of planet to moon between Kepler 1625 and the exomoon is similar to Earth and our moon. So there's exomoons! There's so much we don't know, and we're just starting to explore it. But talking about moons, let's talk about number 6, Enceladus. Enceladus is one of Saturn's moons. New info about it and its plumes that rise from its subsurface ocean came out in the journal Nature. Its plumes are apparently home to some complex organic molecules, and one study detailed the latest data. In a statement by study co-author Christopher Glein, a scientist that specializes in extraterrestrial chemical oceanography, he says they found organic molecules with masses above 200 atomic mass units. For some context, that's over 10 times heavier than methane. Cow farts. Just context. With complex organic molecules emanating from its liquid water ocean, this moon is the only body besides Earth known to simultaneously satisfy all of the basic requirements for life as we know it. So are we hopping over to Enceladus? But no, at least not yet. Could it get ready? Who knows? Space. But anyways, while we're still talking about moons that may host life in our own solar system one day, let's hit number 5, Europa, also known as Jupiter's moon. And yeah, it's covered in ice, but beneath that icy exterior is a salty liquid ocean, and scientists and researchers think there's a plume there. From what I've said about Enceladus, we know a plume means hope of some sort of life. Gases being released from below the surface indicate that there could be microbes living by or in vents deep on the ocean floor. That is, if there are the necessary ingredients to host that life. But maybe the discovery of these plumes is the first step, and next is to see what's in them. And we'll get there. Space is just really, it takes a long time to travel, get there, but we'll get there. Space. Elon Musk is trying. But enough about that, let's move on to number 4, a pinwheel star system named APEP. Out in space, scientists have discovered a Wolf-Rayet star system that involves 3 stars. 2 massive stars are orbiting one another, and another star is bound to those 2 by gravity, 8,000 light years away from us in the Milky Way galaxy. The result is a pinwheel-like star system with a wind of material and dust cloud and surrounding it. It has the first pinwheel-like star system discovered, so its future outcome is unknown, kind of like how it will end. So if it slows down, it could explode as a normal supernova like the end of any star's life, but if its speed maintains, it will collapse at the poles first, think like flattening, and produce a gamma ray burst, so just kind of cool looking, but if it's aimed at us, it could strip the ozone from our atmosphere. But that shouldn't be for a while because the Wolf-Rayet stage in a star's life lasts a few 100,000 years, so we shouldn't be worried about that. Cool instance either way. But let's go on to number 3, Bose-Einstein condensate. So this is a mysterious state of matter, and well, it's the 5th state of matter. We know gases, liquids, solids, 3 states of matter, and even the really cool 4th state of matter, the plasma state. But you know what's even cooler? Bose-Einstein condensate. In 2018, on the International Space Station, scientists cooled a cloud of rubidium atoms to barely above absolute zero. This produced a Bose-Einstein condensate in space. They did this with lasers to take energy away from the atoms, because when the atoms reach that low of a temperature, they clump and start to behave as a single atom, just like. And yes, while this state of matter was predicted on Earth by an Indian physicist named Satyendra Nath Bose, it became a reality in space on the ISS. But 5 states of matter, what's next? Parallel universes? Maybe. But let's look at another mystery at number 2, Oumuamua. Scientists discovered the first known interstellar object to pay our solar system a visit in 2017. Scientists were confused as to whether or not it behaved more like a comet or an asteroid when a reddish cigar-shaped object whizzed past us. It was named Oumuamua, and according to NASA, observations suggest this unusual object had been wandering through the Milky Way, unattached to any star system, for hundreds of millions of years before its chance to encounter with our star system. What makes Oumuamua really cool is its shape. Scientists determined the passing object's shape because of its brightness. Its brightness would vary by a factor of 10, as they hypothesized that it spun on its axis every 7 and a bit hours. Then they determined that its length was possibly 10 times as long as it is wide. But this is atypical, since elongated objects we have seen so far have been more than 3 times longer than their width. Like, it's not common for something just to be like through space. You think it's like a rock. So that's gotten people thinking, what if it wasn't a cigar-shaped rock, and what if it was like some other kind of visitor? You know? Do you catch the drift? Like they said the brightness varied, it was a blinking light on a spaceship. I'm just saying it could be. I also didn't continue with sciences, so don't quote me. At number 1, an absolutely massive black hole. A wild discovery from researchers at Australian National University was them locating a quasar, aka a supermassive black hole. It's 12 billion light years away, and it's the brightest quasar that can be seen at this moment. It's so massive and awesome and hungry that existing science on black holes kind of needs to be reviewed. What we believe to be true now is that black holes have a limit to how fast they grow proportional to their mass. This quasar is about the size of 20 billion suns, a big number, so if we use the speed limit formula to go back in time about 1.2 billion years to the Big Bang, it would be the size of 5,000 suns. What makes this so odd is that the average black hole is the size of 50 suns. 5,000 suns is huge, and how is it already that big so close to the Big Bang? Or is math for black holes and how fast they grow different? What is the truth? Science, explain.
Right, kicking things off now at number 10, we've got a diamond planet. In 2012, astronomers announced that a planet they had known about for a while, called 55 Canry E, was made out of diamond. Well, at least a third of it was. Scientists were shocked because this was the first rocky planet that wasn't covered in granite and water. They actually think its surface is made up of graphite and diamonds as far as the eye could see. Its radius is almost twice that of Earth, so if scientists are right about this, that's a whole lot of bling bling. And if you want to get your hands on some, it's only about 40 light years away, and with our current technology, that will only take you about 860,000 years to get there. Roughly. I still think there are diamond obsessed people out there who would be totally down for that journey. Alright, moving on to number 9 now, we have tardigrades. In 1773, Johann Goes discovered a microscopic animal called tardigrades. Now these 1mm creatures are insanely tough. They've been dragged to the highest mountains, the deepest oceans, and every hot and cold climate you can think of, and they just don't die. They refuse to. Oh, and if you try and starve or dehydrate them, well, good luck. They can live for at least 30 years without food or water. Scientists were like, this. What even are these things? Let's take them into space. Surely they can't survive in space, right? So they dehydrated some of them and took them into space in 2007 and exposed them to the vacuum of space and its intense radiation that would kill a human like me or you in about a minute. They did this for about 10 days, and when they took them back to Earth and hydrated them again, they were pretty much fine. They were just okay. The majority of them just woke up and carried on like nothing had happened, and if this discovery wasn't so fascinating, it would be annoying. They're kind of annoyingly tough. Maybe it's both. Maybe they're fascinatingly annoying. Alright, next up at number 8, we have got the WOW signal. Wow. On August 15th, 1977, astronomer Jerry Emmon was monitoring a radio telescope at the SETI project, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So he was basically looking for aliens. After years of signals that didn't seem to be alien at all, everything changed on this day. Jerry noticed on the telescope printout that there was a huge spike of a signal that was unlike anything they had ever seen and stronger than anything they'd ever recorded. It lasted for a full 72 seconds. Jerry was astounded and quickly circled it with a red pen and wrote "wow" next to it. As news of the signal from space started to spread around the world, it became known as the WOW signal. Everybody went crazy and obviously started talking about aliens right away. They found where the signal came from in space, they located it, an area in the Sagittarius constellation, and they listened again and again and again and again, but nothing. They tried more than 50 times to pick up any signal at all. People around the world have actually been pointing their telescopes to this place in the stars ever since then, but it's just been total silence. Now some say it was aliens, some say it was a reflection of an Earth-based signal, but for many people, we'll never really know what the WOW signal really was. And you know what? That's still pretty cool. Alright, moving on to number 7 now, let's talk about space alcohol. Now in 1995, scientists discovered Sagittarius B2, a very distant and very massive cloud of alcohol. Yeah. Billions of litres of the stuff is just floating out there in an area about 1,000 times the size of our own solar system. It's insanely huge. They analysed all the data and found that the cloud contained ethyl formate. That's a substance that gives raspberries their flavour and rum its smell. So essentially this cloud would kind of taste of raspberry and smell like rum, apparently. But before you guys start picturing these huge floating galaxies of raspberry cocktails and Jamaican rum, most of it is not drinkable alcohol. It's made mainly of methanol. And that's the same thing you find in polish and windshield washer fluid. So you don't want to drink that. Scientists think it formed when ethyl alcohol got caught up in the creation of a new star. It boiled and separated into this gas cloud, and they're excited because these complex organic molecules are rare to find in outer space and could be our best bet yet for finding life somewhere out there. But personally I'm excited because yeah, there's kind of a massive raspberry rum space cocktail waiting for me somewhere out there. Okay, at number 6 now, we have asteroid rings. Now if I told you to picture something in space with rings around it, you'd probably say Saturn. Uranus also has them, even Jupiter and Neptune have slightly visible ones. But in 2014, out beyond Saturn, scientists found an asteroid known as Chariklo with 2 thin rings around it. This totally shocked astronomers because up until that point, they had presumed that only huge things like those planets we mentioned could have rings around them, not tiny little asteroids. It's kind of like presuming that only massive fat guys can be sumo wrestlers and then finding a tiny baby that's wrestling with the best of them. Like whoa, aren't you a tiny bit small for that? In fact, astronomers think that Chariklo got its rings from debris left over after a massive collision and that they might have been formed with the help of a tiny moon. What's going on? Apparently asteroids now have rings around them and they have their own moons apparently, and pretty soon they'll probably have drive-thrus and Facebook and Matthew McConaughey. Alright, moving on to number 5 now, we have a rogue planet. Now in 2012, scientists found CFBD SIR 2149. Yeah, I think that might be its nickname. It's about 100 light years away from our own solar system and it does not orbit any other star. It's just drifting through deepest, darkest space all by itself. It's also massive. They think it's between 4 to 7 times the mass of Jupiter. I think it's kind of scary to picture being on a planet that is just floating through the absolute darkness of outer space. No daytime, just constant night. Although it wasn't the first rogue planet the scientists think they've found, it is the closest one to us that we know of. Because of this, they could narrow its age down to between 50 to 120 million years, and they think it has a temperature of about 400 degrees Celsius. Now it is one of the better known rogue planets, but scientists do think there could be billions of them out there just drifting in the darkness. Alright, coming in at number 4 now, we have planet HD 189733b. Again, I think that might be its nickname. It's about 63 light years away. It looks quite nice, doesn't it? It's got a very nice blue hue to it. Well, that's not a blue ocean you guys are seeing, it's a massive gas giant. It's very hot, only one side of it ever faces its star, and it rains liquid glass sideways at over 7,000 kilometers an hour. Huh? Oh yeah, it rains liquid glass at 7,000 kilometers an hour sideways. So the planet is just 4.6 million kilometers away from its own star, which is very close. In fact, the pull on the planet is so strong that it's tidally locked, which means it cannot turn at all. One side is always facing the star, the other is always darkness. Now this causes very hot winds of 1,000 degrees Celsius to whip from one side to the other, which causes silicate particles there to condense into small drops of glass that rain down, and they're then whipped sideways at over 7,000 kilometers an hour. It's very cool, but I don't think we should move there. I'm quite good here. Alright, at number 3 now, we've got the Great Red Spot. Now look at this image of Jupiter. It's very recognizable, and I'm sure you guys recognize this, the Great Red Spot. But a lot of people don't realize that it's actually a massive storm the size of 3 planet Earths that has been raging for at least a few hundred years. In fact, we aren't really sure how long it's been going at all. It was first observed scientifically in 1879, but there have been reports of it going way back to 1664. Everyone has been pretty amazed by this. Think of the size of our planet and every piece of land and ocean and person in it. The whole thing could fit 3 times into this single storm that has been going on for hundreds of years. It could even be longer, but we just couldn't see it. And for all this time we've been observing it, we still don't really know why it's still there. From what we know about storms here on Earth, they eventually do disappear, but the Great Red Spot seems to be feeding off other tiny storms and getting new energy delivered to it to just keep going and going. Oh, and also scientists are still trying to figure out why it's even red in the first place. Yeah, they don't really know. So next time you guys think that zit on your face is the biggest mystery spot in the universe, don't worry, the Great Red Spot is a lot stranger. Okay, next up at number 2, we have the supervoid. Now we've talked a lot about strange things out there in space, but what about strange nothings? Well, in 2015, astronomers announced the discovery of a massive area of the universe, about 1.8 billion light years across, with, well, nothing in it, really. In an area that size, they expected to find about 10,000 galaxies, but they just weren't there, and technically this place shouldn't even exist. Now, although there is some matter there, scientists never expected to find an area so big with so little. And what I find strange as well is that even though this supervoid is mainly just nothing, it is something, just like a hole is a thing. In fact, one scientist described this object of nothingness as possibly the largest individual structure ever identified by humans, and it just adds to the argument that we know nothing. Well, I know nothing, but scientists also know nothing, but at least we know nothing. Alright guys, we've reached the end now, and finally at number 1, we have the sound of the Big Bang. Now in 1964, 2 astronomers called Robert W. Wilson and Arno A. Panzias were picking up a lot of odd buzzing noises coming from the Hold male horn antenna where they were working. It seemed to come from all parts of the sky around them, all day and all night, non-stop. They tried to get rid of it by tuning their instruments and correcting it, and at one point they thought it was being caused by 2 pigeons that had nested in the actual antenna and were pooping everywhere. But after they had cleaned out the poop and tried everything, the noise was still there, all the time. Eventually, they realized that they were actually hearing cosmic microwave background radiation. That's the echo of the Big Bang. What they were essentially hearing was the leftover noise from the birth of the actual universe. Light from that event had been traveling across the universe for so long and so far that it had eventually become radio waves that were everywhere. Now, some of the static you see on your TV when you turn it on in between channels is that very same thing. Robert and Arno won a Nobel Prize for confirming the Big Bang theory, although some people think it could still have been pigeon poop.